All right. Hi, everybody. Chuck Horning here, staff educator and trainer at Lord's Legacy. I'm going to take a few minutes we're going to go through the staff handbook. And I know sometimes we are not able to get everything, just packed in on our short time training together. So that's why we're here today. We're going to go through the handbook right now. All right. So again, welcome to Lord's Legacy. We're glad to have you. You're a vital contributor to our team, and we're thankful that you're here with us. So we're going to just go through the handbook here and cover the main points, a little bit of the mission, vision, and values. Again, we're a Christian ministry. We exist to provide supports for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We want to do that by loving like Jesus, challenging towards growth, and equipping to thrive. And of course, that starts with us as administration and staff to make sure that we're all, loving one another and being challenged ourselves and equipping and growing and thriving as well. So that's what we're here to do today, to just kind of go over some of these things. So remember, our mission here is first to be Christ-centered. Again, we're a Christian ministry. And then secondly to that is person-centered. I just sum this up with Jesus said, love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. And that's what we're here to do. All right, we're a faith-based community, purpose to provide supports to participants, again, who utilize private pay and are on the different waiver programs that exist here within the state of Kentucky. So some of our guiding values, just to touch on a few here, we want to foster a restraint-free environment where the use of physical restraints, seclusion, chemical restraints, isolation, punishment, aversive techniques, these things are prohibited. We're not going to do restraints or anything of that nature. We want participants to define their own quality of life, right? I'm not going to spend a lot more time on some of these things, but we want people to live autonomously, free, able to grow in their potential, right? Okay, so let's get into here the employment policies. Okay, LLM is we have this at-will clause here at Lord's Legacy Ministries. Kentucky's an at-will state. So what this means is that all employees of LLM are employed at will. This means that either the employee or LLM is free to end the employment relationship at any time for any reason, with or without cause and with or without notice. Lord's Legacy maintains the right to immediately discharge any employee, staff member, or volunteer whose conduct warrants termination. Nothing contained in the employment handbook or in the employee's individual offer of employment, whether written or verbal, can be construed by either party as an employee contract or partnership. Positive performance evaluations, commendations, pay raises, and the longevity of employment, while desired objectives, do not alter the right of either of the employee or LLM to terminate the employment relationship at any time for any reason, with or without cause, or with or without notice. Basically, you're not in agreement you can't get out of, and neither are we. Equal employment opportunity, right? So we're an equal employment opportunity employer. So LLM's policy that it's our policy that employees should be able to enjoy a work environment free from all forms of unlawful employment discrimination and harassment. So that includes race, color, religion, disability, veteran status, sex, marital status, age, and national orientation. So basically, if you see anything here that would violate that, we want you to be able to contact this number right here. Right. So all reporting processes are initiated. They're initiated by submitting a written letter and then submitting that here to the executive director at this address. All right. So same here goes for harassment. Lord's Legacy Life Ministries believes that all employees have the right to a work environment free of harassment, whether racial, sexual, verbal, or physical. All supervisory personnel are and will be reminded of their responsibility in this area. All supervisors are instructed to take swift, appropriate remedial action in response to any report and indication of abuse, threats, or harassment. All right. So if you feel or see or discern any kind of harassment, or you feel like you need to report that, make sure all reports are addressed to the central office. Again, to the executive director, right? All right. So let's keep moving through here. Our diversity statement. Of course, we strive to create an environment that fosters and embraces the value of diversity. Diversity encompasses differences in age, race, religious belief, ethnicity, gender, national origin, sexual orientation, disability, or handicap, socioeconomic background, veteran status, or unique individual style. All right. So let's see. Of course, if you're illegal to work here, we got to make sure that we have all the appropriate legal documentation to work here in the United States. Make sure that we fill out the application process appropriately. Background investigation, of course, during our hiring process. We're going to do a thorough background check in these various ways right here. And of course, I'm going to email, if I haven't already, I will email to you. And if you have not received one from me, make sure you reach out to me and ask for a copy of the handbook and the residential guidelines if you work in residential. Otherwise, I'm going to need you to contact either our ADT director or our community supports managers for any further training that you may need from them. So pre-employment screening and tuberculosis TB testing. So we're going to make sure that we have you tested for all of those things to make sure that we're healthy and ready to work here at the ministry. Or if we're, here we go, is any age requirements that we may have. So we support people 18 years or older, of course, or 21 years or older. So, we might need a diploma or a GED certificate or something like that from you. So just be aware. Substance abuse, alcohol policy. So be aware that we do have a substance abuse and alcohol policy. Let me just kind of summarize that right here as far as how we deal with those things. So we have a zero tolerance policy for any kind of drug or alcohol abuse. And let's just talk about what we mean by when we say our zero tolerance policy. So by zero tolerance, what I mean is it is defined by as in you, right? So that's in you, on you, or around you, okay? While working with participants. So in you, on you, or around you while working with participants. So if you have any kind of, alcohol or drugs in your system during that time, that would violate our policies and it would terminate the relationship. So just be aware of that. If there's any kind of medications that you're on that would maybe, show up in a drug test or a drug screen or something like that, just let us know and we'll talk that over, okay? So thank you so much. Let's keep going here. Automobile insurance. So if you are going to work with us and then also drive with our participants in your vehicle, it's imperative that you have automobile insurance. All candidates for employment must have a fully operating and reliable vehicle for transporting participants or current proof of auto insurance covering any vehicle used for transporting participants, current driver's license, valid social security card. This is the employee's responsibility to ensure all vehicles used to transport individuals with LLM have met these standards as applicable by law. All right. Upon renewal of auto insurance, a copy must be provided. Hey, if anything changes, if you get a new auto insurance, you get a new license, you got to make sure that you give that to us. Okay. Just make sure you get that updated, right? So let's go over this. Cell phone use is strictly prohibited, right? GPS. If you're using your phone in the car, make sure that you're not moving while with our participants in the vehicle with you. If you're using the GPS, pull over before you use it. Pull over, figure out where you're going to go, find a safe place to park and input that GPS. Otherwise, you should not be using any kind of technology really at all while driving with our participants in the car. Okay, does that make sense? No cell phone use. It's strictly prohibited while transporting participants. So that includes texting, talking, utilizing any personal application. I would include Bluetooth devices on that list. All right, let's talk about compensation here. Job classification. So the job classification you are assigned to is based on a standard of pay rate that incorporates specific job duties and skill level. The president, executive director, and/or board of directors of LLM review compensation periodically. Adjustments to compensation may occur based upon market analysis, so competitive rates based upon the market analysis, or if there are significant changes in duty and responsibilities. If you are an hourly or salaried, if you're a salaried payroll employee, your rate will be established upon hire. Independent contractors or private consulting rates are applied based upon the terms outlined in the agreement. So basically, if you're an independent contractor with us, which most folks are, we're going to go over that. We're going to talk about that in your agreement and we'll go from there. Okay, so starting pay rates. For all employee/contractor pay rates during training, we're looking at $8 an hour. New hires will begin their established pay rate when independent functioning begins. So independent functioning is defined as completion of all training with documented competency to perform required duties, independence and passing of all required background and drug screening. So after that time, you'll get your full compensation or the beyond training compensation, right? The independent compensation. So you can set up your account right here. To access your pay stubs, go to this link. Again, if you've received this email, you can just either copy and paste that link, or you can click the link and it'll take you to your account so you can set up that account and have that information. Payday schedule. We pay every 2 weeks, usually on a Tuesday. So just make sure you're aware of that. If you have been given us your direct deposit account, but you change that, it says that if you change the account once, no big deal. It's free on us. But if you change it again, it's going to be a $25 fee. Just what we have to do in terms of communicating with our, oh my goodness, our accountant and all the information that we have to do with that. It becomes something that we have to take into account, and the charges that it costs us to make sure that we're communicating accurately with those people. It all matters. It all adds up at the end of the day. So just be aware, if you do change that more than once, there will be that $25 fee. So again, as it says, each subsequent request for change will carry the same administrative charge, okay? Final pay distribution. So let's talk about that final pay distribution. If you decide to end your contract here with us at Lord's Legacy, we just ask you to give us a 2-week written notice. If you don't give us that 2-week written notice, it will not end. The relationship will not end with in that good status. And if you want to have that status with us, we just want to ask you to give us those 2 weeks. It would potentially limit any ability to hire, for us to hire you again in the future if you so desired. So to remain in good standing with us, we ask for that 2 weeks notice. Of course, we also want to let you know that if you do resign or are terminated within 6 months of your date of hire, a flat rate of $200 will be deducted from your pay to cover all training costs. All costs associated with this deduction are based upon the ability for these trainings to be transferred from organization to organization, right? No exceptions will be made to this policy. What that means is the training you're getting from us, we are providing for you. We are paying for those trainings. All the money is coming, for those trainings that we have to do. It's going to come from us. We're not making you pay for that up front. Some places would. So we want, or at least in part or other. So the idea is that since those trainings are transferable, we don't want people coming to just get that training for free and then leave. We want you to stick around with us for a little bit. We don't want to waste your time. We don't want you to waste our time. So just want you to be aware. So here's an outline of those fees and why we come up to that $200 number. It is at least 8 hours of paid training for web-based modules. That comes to about $64. So those web-based modules, as I've already said, they're standardized across the state of Kentucky. Again, they're transferable. So that's going to be one of the reasons why we actually have this flat rate deduction. So crisis prevention and intervention training by a certified trainer, we're looking at $138 for that. Medication administration training by a registered nurse for medication administration training, right? So we're looking at $140. The whole class costs even more than that. So really, even that is really kind of a reduced fee there if we think about covering the entire med admin class. So again, just be aware that if you end the relationship within that 6-month period, or if you're let go, that there will be a flat rate of $200 from your pay to cover those training costs. So overtime, let's talk about that for a second. As an independent contractor, we're not looking at any kind of time and a half or overtime. So that's not going to be an issue for most of our independent contractors, or for any of our independent contractors. The reason being, again, is being an independent contractor, that gives us the capacity to financially cover, and pay a higher overall price, to pay that overall price for employment anyways. And then it also gives us the ability to offer more hours when those are available. Otherwise, if we have to do time and a half, and otherwise we're not going to be able to cover those costs, and we're going to have to limit people's overtime, limit people's hours, and keep people under 40 hours a week. And we don't want to do that. We want to give you all the opportunity we can. And basically, at the end of the day, we worked out the numbers. And as the current model that we have now with our independent contractor and the rates that we're currently offering, we're just paying people more, and people are keeping more of their money. So that's what we want to do. We want everybody, it helps everybody out at the end of the day, and our participants are being served. And that's what matters the most. So let's talk about definitions of the employment status. Let's go down here to the independent contractor area. here's the really key points, okay? So when we use an independent contractor, this does not exempt the independent contractor from assuring they meet the training and regulating requirements set forth by state and federal regulating agencies. It's also understood that independent contractors meet all IRS government guidelines for classification. So again, I've already given or will give the packets with information about independent contractor, kind of like, with the IRS documents that you need, and also some of the workers' compensation information, which I will address briefly at the end of this video. But again, you should have already received that either in an email or here at the office. I can get that packet for you if you have not received it yet. But the idea, again, is simply that you are an independent contractor. I used to deliver bread. I was a bread guy. Many people in that industry, they're independent contractors. They're contractors. That means they own their own truck. They own their own route. They still have to make sure that they're, accomplishing they're meeting all the requirements set forth by the agency or the company that they worked for. So just be aware that that is how that works. Be aware also, it's understood that hours are not a guarantee, and scheduling is based on participants' family needs and can change frequently from week to week. Now, we do our best. I think we do a really good job of setting a consistent schedule for everyone, but just things do change. And again, if requirements aren't being met, that those things can change quite quickly and ultimately lead to probation of hours and shifts and things of that nature. So we don't want that to happen, but just be aware of us. It doesn't, we want everybody to be working, and we want everybody to be helping with the mission and vision here of the ministry. So it doesn't help us to prohibit hours to someone for not meeting those requirements. So let's keep going. Staff member development, training, and coaching. Just again, we do 6 months evaluations, 1 year. Once you finish orientation, crisis, and then documentation training, you're going to be in that position. And after you finish, these down here, all of this stuff, basically. You're independent functioning without the ability to administer medication. So that's kind of like once you get to that shadowing, once you're shadowed and you've filled out, you've completed all these other elements of the training. But then once you've actually, so that's a level 2 direct support professional. Again, that's without the ability to administer meds. Once you've completed med training, that means that you are level 3, and you, of course, have the ability to administer medication. So that's technically the job description right there. Of course, we want to make sure that everybody has first aid and CPR training. You should be, if you haven't already, you should get something in the email from either myself or other staff at Lord's Legacy. Let's talk about other mandatory services, in-service trainings. So agency orientation, individualized needs. That's going to be, we do that during the 3rd day on documentation training, mandatory documentation, record keeping. That again, I already mentioned that. OSHA, HIPAA, and then team meetings. So we do have regularly occurring, usually once a month. We try to do our best to do once a month team meetings. Okay. So just be aware, if you ever have any of our property, to return it. If you ever use any personal computer or anything here in the ministry, make sure that you just, leave everything the way it was. Don't download anything off of it. If you do download anything, make sure you delete it. Make sure that the device you're using must be password protected. All of those things, right? Outside employment. So we want to make sure holding a second job elsewhere may become a concern to our ministry if this employment creates a conflict of interest. So that's really the big deal. So we don't mind excuse me, if you have another job somewhere else, but if there is a conflict of interest or compromises the performance of any employee, that could violate the contract, and it could even potentially end the relationship. So we do ask that right now, especially in the world that we live in with COVID-19, that if you have another job, that we're just going to limit that to jobs that aren't other agencies or similar healthcare type providers. We want to make sure that we're respecting other agencies, that we're not creating those conflicts of interest, and then of course that we're not potentially creating a larger web for the spread of COVID-19. God forbid if a staff member contracted the virus. So the non-compete clause, this is one that I want to let you know about. So Lord's Legacy believes in fostering healthy relationships that are free from unethical practices. So the idea here is that for contractors or employees with Lord's Legacy, so providing support for private pay or for hire or any type or any type for individuals or families we support is strictly prohibited. So if you're going to families that we support and then you go and then you offer them private pay or for hire work, again, kind of like, behind our backs or under the carpet, kind of under the table kind of a thing. Like, that's the idea of unethical here. If we're ever in communication, if there's a need and you bring it to us and we're talking to maybe a person's guardian, and there's, the whole idea is making sure that we're respecting relationships and we're protecting people's lives and families. Our job is to make sure that we're free from these types of unethical practices. So these types of things, offering those supports, providing those supports, private pay or for hire, those are strictly prohibited. And that would also lead to potentially a breach in this particular clause and would end in the contract as well. So let's see. Just be aware that exists. Again, the whole idea here is that we want to create freedom of choice for our people, for our participants, and the people that we provide services for. And, so much so that there's no manipulation, persuasion, or solicitation from staff members. We want people free from those type of common unethical practices within the industry. Okay. So we want to foster long-term relationships, right? That's the whole goal here with the non-compete clause. Just be aware that exists. And again, that's going to exist for 1 year up to date of separation between both parties. So if you no longer work for Lord's Legacy, just be aware that that's something that lasts for that term period. Okay. Personal records, all your personal records. Of course, we keep these things in a locked office, right? We want to make sure that everybody's files are taken care of. So let's talk about, so at any point, if you need any of your own information, TB, skin test records, college or direct support records, please just go ahead. It's your job. It's your responsibility to ask us if you need any of those things. So I'm going to skip through this and try to go a little bit more quickly here. So performance evaluations and appraisals. Again, I already mentioned 6 month, 1 year. If we have any disciplinary actions, remember, guys, our goal is to encourage, coach, and train and counsel. Any place that unsatisfactory performance is not corrected, those things can lead to verbal, written warnings, probation, suspension, or termination. All right. So situations that may carry a zero tolerance policy are, but are not limited to, any form of abuse, neglect, exploitation, failure to failure of a drug test, violations of the code of ethical conduct or standards of conduct, criminal offenses, medication errors, or verbal or physical displays of anger. So the whole idea here, guys, is that each situation will be reviewed independently. Medication errors. It's really important that we understand that all medication errors are treated the same. 2 medication errors within a 6 month period results in the need to take the medication administration training over again. Doesn't matter if it's a multivitamin or a controlled substance. We got to make sure that they're all treated with equal seriousness. Okay, gossip policy. We have a zero tolerance policy for gossip. Okay. Gossip is defined as casual or unconstrained conversation, comments, or reports about other people, typically involving details that are not confirmed as being true. That would be like things like slander, lies, rumors. These things are hurtful. Sharing information that you've learned about somebody in an effort to call in question their character. Excuse me. Conversing with colleagues about any information that is unfounded. Okay. Triangulation, right? Sally told Jesse something about Bobby. It's wrong. Don't do it. Speaking about a situation to someone that you or a person you're speaking with has no power to resolve. So you just, if you have any issue, whether it's with staff administration, management here at Lord's Legacy, or with other staff, or even like with participants or anything, we want to make sure that you keep that in the correct and appropriate and healthy channels, that you resolve problems with respect and dignity for everyone. So the way that you're going to do that, we'll go over that here in a few moments. But again, this is a non-negotiable for all team members. Okay, any complaints or grievances must remain confidential and expressed only as outlined in the open door policy. So let's get to that, okay? So the open door policy, basically what this means is, again, the idea is if you have a grievance with someone, or if there's an issue, and if you're able to take it directly to that person, obviously, if it's appropriate and you can do it in a way that's healthy and respectful, we would encourage you to resolve your own problems. But if there is a situation where, there's an uncomfortability, there's a situation where you need to come to a staff, or you have your own grievance, you just need to relate a job-related concern, we want you to bring those complaints or grievances and keep them confidential. You don't want to share that with other staff members. I mean, again, other staff members who are not included. Again, the idea is, again, if somebody doesn't do the dishes in the house and you work the next shift, it's okay to ask them nicely and appropriately about that to see what's going on. But again, also don't make any assumptions. Maybe just the best thing to do is to come and bring it to an administrator and keep it confidential. That way, should there ever be an issue that, that comes up, that everybody's covered. So again, these things should never be discussed with anyone other than the person directly involved or the administrator assisting with the complaint. So that practice of doing that, that's considered triangulation, right? Carries a zero tolerance policy. We're not going to do it. So the first thing we're going to do is discuss any concerns or issues, ideas, which are important to the person involved, right? We're going to go to that person. The Bible talks about this in Matthew 18. If your brother sins against you, it says, go directly to him. If that person then doesn't listen, bring another brother with you, kind of for accountability, right? If they still don't sin, bring them before the larger body, and let's talk about it out loud. And that's kind of how we take that process here. We're going to bring it directly to the person. If that doesn't work, we're going to come and we're going to bring it and bring in and include administration. So that could either be myself, Mary, or Paige, possibly Janine. And if it still doesn't work, it kind of just goes up the chain of command, so to speak. So should you still feel further discussion should be made, meaning all parties involved, we'll try to see what we can do with the president or the executive director to find a resolution. Okay. The whole idea, guys, is we want to resolve the issue. We want to bring reconciliation. We're here not for ourselves. We're here to provide supports for our participants, and we can't do that with bickering and backbiting. We want to make sure that we're doing a good job loving like Jesus, right? All right. So social media. We have a social media policy. Just be aware that your social media ought to be family friendly. You want to make sure that you're not posting any content that would violate our policies. Refrain from personal attacks, hate speech, cursing, posting adult disturbing videos. No post should contain threats, disrespectful acts of violence. You may not utilize your platform to promote products or services to any LLM affiliate. So again, don't try to sell things to people that we're in relationships with. You may not post photos of employees, participants, or vendors without permission. If permission is granted, LLM must be tagged in the photo, okay? If contacted by media, make sure that you contact the executive director immediately. All right. So let's talk about scheduling, hours, requesting off, on-call policies. So office hours are 9 to 5 here at the office, Monday through Friday. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. That's weekly. So again, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Of course, we're off all national holidays. Let's skip through this. So the request off time, if you need to request off, you've been given a request off form. You should fill out that request off form and hand it in to a supervisor. You should be doing that 2 weeks prior to the time you're looking for, and then we'll respond within a 72-hour window. It's your responsibility to assure that all shifts are covered at all times. Under no circumstances should your shift be unstaffed. So tardiness will not be tolerated. You should be arriving 15 minutes early to your shifts. Okay, emergency call-off. So for emergency call-offs, you should do that with 2 hours. Give us a 2-hour heads up. Anything under a 2 hour, that will be a non-excuse. A no-call, no-show is defined as job abandonment and will result in immediate termination. So just be aware of that, okay? So holiday coverage, you're going to work some holidays. You're going to work at least 1 summer, spring official holiday and 2 fall, winter holidays. The idea, guys, is that we have rotations here. Again, as independent contractors, things like time and a half is not going to apply. Better yet is that we have a lot more hours available for you. Snow and inclement weather, be aware, again, flexibility is important here, that under certain circumstances, we could need you to stay at the home a little bit longer. If there was things like snow, inclement weather, emergency, and pandemics, right? So just to be aware. You cannot simply call the on-call supervisor to inform them that you're not be working that day. We have to have shifts covered. Somebody's got to be there. You got to be at work. on those days, and you're required to work. Regardless of that, we make a way. If I have to come and pick you up and give you a ride, we'll find a way to do it, okay? So here's some things you want to make sure: that you keep your cell phone charged, bring adequate clothing, keep sufficient gas in your vehicle in case of an emergency, pack meals and drinks, things that you need to eat and to have to keep yourself energized on your shift. Listen to TV and snow reports for closings and delays. Have other staff members' phone numbers available. This is an important one for inclement weather. Have transportation phone numbers available. You might need to find a ride, right? Have any day program numbers available to the ADT. Plan ahead and leave early so that you can arrive on time. So this is a really important part here of the handbook, which is the on-call cell phone. So make sure that you do this on-call cell phone. Make sure that you record these numbers right here. This is the office number. Again, you're going to call the office number during our regular business hours, Monday through Friday. So if you have an emergency in one of our residential homes or anything like that, we're going to call the office. We have the office is full of your staff administration, and that's the number. Make sure you record that number in your phone, 859-797-5300. So if you're not already, get your phone out and record that. Make sure you have it. Okay, next. Oh, what did I say? That's not the office number. That is the on-call phone number. This is the on-call phone number. So go ahead and get your phone out and just save this number as LLM on call, 859-797-5300. And here's the office number right here. Once you're done saving the on-call number, go ahead and save the office number, LLM office, 859-245-2233. They do not call the on-call phone during normal business hours. Okay? If there's a medical emergency in regard to health, safety, and welfare of the participant, call 911 immediately. Listen, if you don't know, call on call. But if it's any other circumstance that you would call, I would say 911 for yourself or a family member or a loved one. Go ahead and call 911. If you feel like there's a gray area of uncertainty, call on call, and we will help you and tell you what to do. Or call the office, obviously, whichever one is pertinent. So let's go over the overview of job requirements and standards of conduct. So inexcusable. So here's one thing I want you to see: falsification. Falsification, right? Falsified. Falsify. False alarms. False. So the whole idea is tell the truth, right? So inexcusable conduct includes, but is not limited to, falsification of paperwork, documentation, and/or reports, falsification of claims pertaining to injuries incurred on LLM premises, falsification of claims of any benefit provider by LLM, falsified communications on records, including personal, medical, and production records, giving false fire alarms or causing false fire alarms to be given, restricting output or persuading others to do so, or promoting, encouraging, agitating, engaging in, supporting suspension of work, or any other interruptions of services, sabotage, or subversive activity of any kind, misuse or removal from the premises without authorization. So look, intoxication, narcotics, drug abuse, again, in you, on you, or around you, on the premises or with our participants, sleeping on the job, right? Hitting another person, striking a person, not performing your required duties, eating the participants' food, consuming their goods, right? Driving uninsured vehicle while with our participants, fighting, or any other forms of abuse, right? So these things are just kind of common everyday things. If using practical jokes, horseplay, causing confusion by unnecessarily shouting, or engaging in horseplay, just doing things that are just not appropriate for work in a professional environment. So let's kind of just summarize all that with two main ideas here: insubordination and incompetence. Insubordination is basically when you don't do something willfully and deliberately. Incompetence is when you're not achieving the required goals and your job requirements because of carelessness. So a medication error due to distraction on a cell phone would be incompetence. That's careless. Not giving a medication because you don't feel like it's the right thing to do, that would be insubordination, and that's wrong. And both of those would be, we would review that, and then you would get either a written or written warning, probation, or ultimately potentially a termination. So Be aware of those things. So, okay, so let's talk about what we can do. So during our shift, we want you to look for various and creative ways to help support our individuals that you're serving. Understanding you work for them, we're here to make, we work for them, and making them happy while supporting a fulfilling life is our responsibility, right? Look for activities of fun. Be a team player. Things we don't want to do is like spend time on the TV. Personal time, we're there for them. They're not here for us. We can never leave them unattended. You can never take them anywhere for like your own errands to the ATM, or like to pay a bill, or to your family home or friend's home or anything. That's inappropriate. We're not here. They're not here for us. We're here for them. Respect the participants at all times. Respect their property, their resources, their money, their food, their furniture. Don't sleep on their furniture. Don't do any of that stuff. So napping is completely prohibited, except during third shifts where otherwise it's been approved. Again, this is only if you've finished all your job requirements and duties during that shift. But otherwise, napping is completely prohibited. Smoking, vaping, electronic cigarettes. We're a tobacco-free facility. That's not approved under any circumstance. You should not be smoking or vaping in or around our homes. Cell phone and texting. Again, you should not be on your phone. I understand that you might be using your work. We utilize Slack. There might be certain things that are, during your shift, you need to text a family member or something like that. That's absolutely fine. You should not be on your phone for a consistent period of time where you're being distracted, and it's getting in the way of your job duties. Okay. Getting too comfortable. Don't get too comfortable with participants. Maintain healthy boundaries and a professional attitude during work, right? Inappropriate clothing. So again, let's just kind of go over this really quickly. So personal appearance, proper hygiene. That's a big one. Make sure we all look good and we smell good, and we're professional with each other and with our participants. Staff members are expected to report to work wearing clean clothing under the dress code policy. A neat, well-groomed appearance is important to staff. Important to staff members, their fellow workers, and to individuals we support. Right? Pajamas, short shorts, tank tops, midriffs, suggestive clothing, revealing cleavage, sheer clothing, exposed undergarments, suggestive lettering, or affiliations with any entity that may be considered sexual, or low-rise pants or skin exposed is not allowed. Sandals with open toes and no back straps are prohibited. Okay, you got to wear closed-toed shoes. Tattoos with foul language, drug references, gang signs, any of that kind of thing. That's going to be not okay. Just remember, look professional. Okay, code of ethical conduct. All right, let's see. You will be expected to follow the rules of conduct of the ministry and your department. Behavior that violates our rules of conduct may result in disciplinary action. Okay. So do not share your burdens. So we'll talk about, again, we talked about the open door policy, but do not share your burdens or problems with participants and their families. Again, you're not there, they're not there for you, you're there for them. We don't want anyone to, our participants don't need your baggage, I guess, so to speak. We want to make sure that we're being professional, make sure that they are being treated in like manner. So maintain healthy boundaries, grow in relationship, treat them as friends, and have good relationship, and grow in communication and relationship with our participants. But just make sure that we're not putting any undue stress on them. So let's talk about documentation. So long story short is documentation is required for proof of supports. So we can't bill for our supports. That means our participants can't receive the funding they need for the supports if you're not doing all the electronic and paper documentation that are required during each shift. So just make sure that we're doing all that electronic and paper documentation. Use black ink when filling out documentation. Use legible handwriting. Print or cursive is fine. All right, let's keep going through here. Almost done. Thank you for sticking around for so long. We'll skip through incident reports. Your administrative staff will handle that. All right, what else do we need to cover? All right. That may be it, guys. I'm just double checking here. Appreciate your time with me today. We're glad to have you on board with our team. All right, guys, that's it. If you ever need any of the administration contact information, it's right here. Our address, our phone number, fax, on-call cell phone. Again, please make sure you have that. Again, it's emergency after hours phone. Don't call that for scheduling and things. And if you have any need for any of your staff administrators, there it is. Hey guys, we appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thanks for being with us here at the ministry. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me on Slack or send me an email. All right. Have a good one.